In today's episode, I interview Alan No. He shares his journey from burnout to helping entrepreneurs monetize their expertise, specifically digital products. He talks about the challenges he faced and the support that he received from his family when he transitioned from finishing his degree into starting his own business. Alan emphasizes the importance of finding clarity and trying different things to achieve success. He also highlighted some of the mindset of service providers who want to scale without significantly sacrificing their time, something that I know all of us can learn a little bit more about. In this episode, Alan No shares his perspective on success and the importance of defining it in your own terms. We talk about the real cost of chasing growth at all costs and how to avoid falling in that trap. Alan's a very entertaining guest. He's very determined and he joined us from the Philippines. I hope you enjoy it. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nata Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I have a very interesting guest with me today. You guys are going to love to hear from him. Alan No, he is in a very different place than we all are, most of us at least. So I wanted him to share a little bit about where he is and what he does and what he's going to share with us today. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Nata. It's wonderful to be here. Yeah, we're actually 12 hours apart. So I am in Asia, in Manila in particular. And yeah, what I do is basically I help people out with monetizing their expertise, essentially helping them create digital products so that they'll be able to add an additional income stream to their business while also making that money without having to trade time for it. So that's essentially what I do, and it's lovely to be here.
That's great. That's definitely something that we all need to learn more of, how to make more money without spending more of our time doing it. Great thing to learn about. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you end up in this kind of business, helping entrepreneurs with their digital products?
It's definitely not planned. So growing up, there was no internet. Like I'm about to turn 40 in a couple of months. So I lived to the time where there was no internet. And so this was like farthest from any plans that I may have. So I finished accountancy in college and was able to pass the board. So I'm actually a certified public accountant. So that was the path that I was going through. Part of it was getting through account audit practice and eventually perhaps working abroad. But along the way, like I read, my best friend asked me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which kind of changed the way I thought about money, career, and business. So long story short, I went into corporate and started a franchise business in the restaurant space. So I did that. What I realized is I kind of did that. I had too much too early for such a young age. So I was in my early 20s then. And that's kind of how I experienced burnout, both as an employee and as an entrepreneur. And the entrepreneur part is painful because since I ran a franchise business, which was supposed to be easy, like easy business because there's a system already. And for me to crash and burn there was a huge hit for my ego. So from there, I actually took a break. I applied for a scholarship to study in China to learn business and language. So that was like my sabbatical, my kind of impromptu sabbatical for almost 10 months. When I came back, I was already part of the unemployment rate in the country. I saw myself as a well-educated bum at that stage because I didn't make it as an entrepreneur. I didn't make it as an employee. I kind of didn't know where I was going to place myself. And that's when I turned to the internet. So that was by accident because I was waiting for companies to reply to my application. So while in my downtime, I was searching online and maybe looking for ways to make money. And that's when I stumbled upon the site. It used to be called Otis. Now it's called Upwork. So that's kind of where I had my first online job. And that was an eye opener for me because I was earning like three times my pay from my assistant bank manager job before. And back then, that was early 2010, around 2010. And my notion of online is like it's just full of scammers. And it's changed my mind 180 degrees. And it kind of bit that bug to make internet money bit me. One thing led to another. Eventually ended up doing affiliate marketing, which is like selling products for a commission. And later on, people asked me how I did that, started teaching it, and now I'm here helping people monetize their knowledge.
Very great story. So, just to give people a little bit of context, first of all, Alan looks like he's still 20, even though he says he's almost 40. If you can't see him, go look at our YouTube account so you can see him. And then for a lot of you here in the US, hearing that he and I grew up without internet, even though we're in the same age of people in the US who grew up with having access to all of that, it might be a little crazy to hear about. So I grew up in Brazil and Alan was in a different place too. And so we didn't have probably the same access that a lot of the people in the US had. I remember growing up and seeing a computer for the first time somewhere close to I won't say close to high school, definitely the end of middle school, that we started using computers in school. We had this computer lab that we had to go to. We were taking as a elective class to the computer lab, and we used to love to go to the computer lab. And we used to play with codes, basically. You had to like draw 3D images and like try to play with coding, and that was our computer experience. And we're talking dark screen with green, blocky letters kind of computer. So very different experience than what people had in the US. So going from that to finding your niche and finding your profession within the online space is pretty amazing. That's a very cool transition for you from being burned out and not knowing where you fit in to finding that path. So really cool transition there. So you talked a little bit about this $8 sale that you made. It was kind of a turning point for you. Can you talk about the challenges that you had during those 2 years of trying and failing online and what kept you going and help you finally make that sale?
Right. Yeah. So a little context with that $8 sale. So I haven't been making money for a couple of years. So I've been since stopped doing freelance work because I was helping out in our family business. I was looking for a way of how can I make money without really trading time for it. So I would take my leisure time, and that's when I found affiliate marketing. I actually tried a lot of things, blogging, social media posting, and my niche during that time was Mandarin Chinese because I was fresh off the scholarship. So we had to create a project where to give back, to kind of share what we knew. So it's kind of hitting two birds with one stone. I'm fulfilling that project while exploring online marketing. So I started blogging, social media, connecting with people online. Then one time I had this interview with a Canadian of all people who had a book, an ebook about learning Chinese. He spelled it Chinese, Chinease. It's like Chinese and easy in one word. So I thought that was pretty smart of him to do that.
Yeah.
So what I did was we gave away three copies of his book. I still have that email to this day. And three winners. And I just had a very little demure line there asking, hey, if you didn't win, you can get a copy of the book here. It was just one link. I hyperlinked the word here. It was almost hidden. Then when I woke up the next day, sent that email, woke up the next day, I got my first $8 sale. And it felt like a million because to give you context, like I'm an accountant. And even among us accountants, my role in our organization was somebody who documents. Like I don't even work with teams. Like that's how introverted I was. And that was farthest my imagery of somebody who's able to sell is somebody extroverted who's comfortable with people. And for me to be able to make a sale to a stranger in the internet who doesn't know me was changed me on a cellular level because it showed that hey, I can sell by just being myself. So that was a big moment for me, a huge influx of like self belief. And to your question, because it took me about around 2 years to get there, the thing that pushed me was I'm not the type of person that's a type A personality. So I'm not somebody who has like, I have a big goal, then like I move heaven and earth to do it. I'm kind of like somebody who goes with the flow. So for me to have that drive, it's because I knew what I didn't want. So employment, I didn't like the politics. I didn't want the ceiling that it has. I didn't like the commute, especially here in Manila. With traditional entrepreneurship, dealing with employees, inventory, the red tape, I knew what I didn't want. And failure here means I'm forced to choose between the two. And that's for me, that was the drive to move forward. On the more practical level, the cost also helped. Starting an internet business, especially back in the day, it's super cheap. So what I did, my mindset was I was working at the family business when during those times when I'm not making money. So I'm thinking my job there in the family business is like my investor. It's the investor for my business. So that helped me keep going and got me through those tough times because if I that was my sole source of income, I probably would have stopped. So there's motivation, emotional motivation, also practicality to make sure that you go through the tough phases.
How was the family experience when it came to your parents and supporting you in this endeavor after, you're going through your education, getting your degree, getting an additional scholarship to learn more, and then at the end of the day decide that's not for me. I want to try something different. How was that? How did that conversation go?
That part was the easier part. The challenge, because I ended up working with a family, so doesn't matter. But when I started dabbling online, that was something they couldn't understand. Even to this day, like it's hard for them to grasp what I was doing. And I tried to go full time earlier. So I turned full time 2017, but that's not my first attempt. Like my first attempts were faced with resistance because I'm in the Philippines, but I'm the third generation Chinese. I'm a migrant here. So my grandfather migrated here. So as the eldest son, I was expected to be the one to take over the family business. So there, I have that working against me. But at the same time, I think what I did was, how can I make them understand what I'm doing? That I'm not just playing around. Well, first is I showed them when I made money in affiliate marketing. I would like share it with them, show them, treat them out. So it's something tangible that they could see. But the bigger thing I think is as I my career started to take off, I got invited to speak. And when I get invited to speak, they would run ads on the newspaper and my face would be there. So like it's starting to feel more real for them. Oh, okay, okay, and he's getting like sometimes. And there's this one time I invited my mom to attend one of my speaking engagements, and I guess it cemented for them that okay, this is a real career. We may not understand it, but I think he knows what he's doing. So, and this was the time because I was starting get about to get married and not and eventually starting a family. So they just wanted to make sure that I know what I'm doing. And that's why ultimately one of my goals is to grow my business enough that I can retire my parents, which would be like the ultimate poetic justice for like this story of mine.
Yeah, they were just being parents, making sure that you're on the right path and supporting you along the way, and giving you a safety net to fall back into the family business if you had to, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Perfect. So, your mission really revolves around helping people monetize their knowledge through digital products. How do you help your clients kind of identify which part of their knowledge or expertise will be the best one for them to monetize?
I find this like I find people overcomplicate this. So just a quick story. One of my students, he was reaching out. He wanted to get clients with his new skill, email copywriting. But upon asking him, like I try to look. I'm a believer that like the simplest solutions are typically the best. So I would just ask him like, "What are you getting? What are you doing now?" So he was telling me like he's getting paid to be an appointment. He closes deals through DMs. So clients would hire him chat with potential clients and close them on deals. I mean, I was telling him, if you're getting paid to do that, why not offer that as a skill and train others to have a career like yours? And that's what like was a light bulb moment for him. And for me, that's looking at the lowest hanging fruit. Like, what are you getting paid for now? And maybe that's the thing that people are also willing to learn from you, right? So that's one thing. And also for in terms of career, like for example, for myself, I'm a numbers guy and I built my career of email marketing. So I feel that if there's something unclear for you, it's always important to talk to people because for me, when I see people post or leave comments, those are silent cries for help. So be observant, see what people need, and understand what you want to deliver for them because it's like having that overlapping that Venn diagram where you overlap with what you want to do and what they need, understanding what that is. But ultimately, what's important is there's always clarity in motion. So if you keep moving, like for me, found my clarity because I tried different things. And that's when I got conviction for 2 years of earning nothing to finally have that breakthrough. Because I was that kid during summer where I would stop 3 lessons in of a ten lesson program. I'm that kid. Like I'll start 10 lessons from swimming, end up in lesson two and quit. So I'm that guy. And the reason I think changed is because I tried different things and I knew what I didn't want. For you to have clarity, for me, I encourage you to try different things and be okay with getting setbacks because I feel that if you're comfortable with setbacks, you're basically unstoppable because while others are quitting left and right, you're just pushing through and not taking setbacks too personal.
What do you think it helped you not to just give in and quit whenever you failed? Where did that drive come from?
I wouldn't say it's always been there. I've quit several times before. I guess part of it is personally like it's easier for me to quit on myself than to quit on others. And I guess that was during the part of my life when I was about to get married. Eventually I want to have a family. So those I knew that I wasn't just playing for myself and that served as extra motivation for me. And I think I remember when I was about to turn full time back in 2017, I was reaching out to my circle of friends who all of them were doing this full time. I was the only one dabbling it as a side hustle. And I was asking them for advice because I am not going to have any salary anymore. And I was telling them, like, how does that worry do you ever get over that worry? And for most of them, they were telling me, like, it's always going to be at the back of your mind. And just we have to accept that similar to like how going through grief is like it's never really going away, but you just have to deal with it. And I think for me, even loss in terms of family, last year we had a couple of big losses in my side and on the side of my wife, and understanding that life will move on is very important. That helped me as well because you understand that the world will not end, and death, of course, is one of the biggest sufferings you can encounter as a human. And if you can move on from that, like having a bad review, a bad comment, somebody unsubscribe from your list or from your
Yeah.
product seems trivial when you think of the big picture.
So you talked about your ideal client being service providers that wanted to earn more money without having to trade in their time, right? So not giving in necessarily their time to make more money. Can you talk a little bit more about the mindset of those individuals typically when they come to you?
A lot of them want to scale without sacrificing life. So what I mean by that is I was actually surprised when I was talking about because my brand is about digital solopreneur. It's like being able to grow as a one person business. And I was surprised when I was sharing my story and my belief, the fact that I feel more anxious hiring somebody, working with somebody than just doing the work. I didn't realize how many people resonated with that. Because it's easy for people to say, like people who are growing leaps and bounds, to say, just hire people, get people to get there. Well, I think what they don't realize is for some people, that statement creates so much anxiety. Like just working with another person, it's not everyone's cup of tea. And I think there's a lot of people who are getting success, but are afraid to succeed more because that would mean they need to become an agency or they need to like grow more, have a bigger team. And that creates a roadblock for them. So what they really want is like to scale solo, right? To scale. So that I think that's what appeals to them. It's not like the drive to grow at all costs. Like they're not motivated by that. For them, it's finding what's enough and finding a clear path to get there. So I think that that's where our lives like intersect, because I'm also a big advocate in slow living, very deliberate with your time. In fact, recently I discontinued a 3-year membership in a business organization I was with. Even if I love that group, it's because like I just needed more time to pace myself, like to get a chance to speak with you, to explore more, like things like this. I miss doing for myself. So I think that that appeals to people because a lot of people grow, get more revenue, but find themselves earning less because of all the overhead plus the drama that you need to deal with when you have a bigger team. So they kind of they force themselves to introspect and find what really matters. And having a lean team, growing and getting enough seems to appeal to them. That's where our lives intersect.
Yeah, very good. I think it's hard for a lot of people who work so hard in building their business to then give away some of that control and trust somebody else, right? That's something that we probably all wrestled with and struggle with. But, at a certain point, there's only so much you can do yourself. There's only so much you can scale to by yourself. So you have to make that decision to either reach that ceiling and be okay with that by yourself, or being okay with moving into the next step and actually hiring a team and outsourcing some of the services. So it's basically a choice that you make as a business owner. And like you said, there's people that are okay with that, are okay with scaling with a team, and there's people that are not. So there's a way to do it for everybody. We don't all have to do it the same way.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that was one of the things I was railing against. Like there's a narrative saying that like solopreneurship is just like having a high paying job, which is kind of rubbed me the wrong way in the sense that like, there's no one way to, no one owns the definition of entrepreneurship, right? And there's no one business model, right? And perhaps because that hits close to home, because with our family business, there's no specialization. Everyone's all around. And it's a small business. It's like for me, that's what I've known business to be. And perhaps that's just my perspective. But I just want to have to give people a voice that even having I don't want them to be painted with quote unquote less ambition. Like I think everyone has a different way to be satisfied, to be fulfilled, and a different situation, to be quite honest, that perhaps they need to take care of their families, somebody's sick, or like maybe ambition or like massive scaling might not be the priority right now. And that's okay. Like we have our own path. And I'm just painting this little corner of the internet for people just like that.
Yeah, I love that perspective. I feel like there's such a push for growth and scaling with a team and just going big, big, big. And a lot of times we forget we make our own definitions of success. And if for you, success is scaling your business up to a certain point where you make the money that you want, but you still have the time to do the things that you like to do, and that's what makes you happy, and then that's enough for you, right?
Yes, exactly.
Today's episode is sponsored by Accidental CEO. Are you tired of empty calendars, or worse, feeling like your revenue is capped? I've been there. The truth is, it's insanely frustrating to feel like you're doing everything the experts recommend but never seeing real results for yourself. Stop trying to follow someone else's path. Your business superpowers are completely unique from every other entrepreneur in your area. Let me help you find the key to unlock your wildly profitable business strategy. I focus on one-on-one business and mindset coaching because I truly believe you deserve individualized strategies for your unique business. It's time to get your business thriving. Check out my website for more information at accidentalceo.co. That's accidentalceo.co. So your main message is that your business should serve you and not the other way around. And I love that. Can you expand a little bit more on the real cost that people face when they chase the growth at all costs and how you guide your clients to avoid falling into this trap?
I love this question. The typical things would be forgetting about neglecting your health, less family time. But I want to talk about something a bit different that perhaps I haven't heard a lot of discussion about because personally went through this. I feel that like growth at all costs leaves the entrepreneur like you lose a little bit of yourself, of what made you who you are. So for me, like one of my strengths is as a learner, right? And in the past couple of years, I've been focused on growth or experimenting with a lot of things just to make the business grow. Along those lines, I forgot to learn, which is something that I enjoy. I don't necessarily learn just to become a better entrepreneur. I just enjoy learning. And that's why I got into photography like more than 10 years ago. Like that was my hobby. And that's something I learned from scratch as well. And I miss that little part of myself. And when I look back at photos, like I don't have new photos. Like I don't do a lot more new things. Like I keep doing this thing. And I think I'm not sure if I'm alone in this experience, but we kind of sacrifice a lot as well in doing that. And that little piece of me, I felt that little piece of me died in those 2 years. And that's like a big cost for me because learning makes me happier. If I'm a happier person, I'm a better, not only a better entrepreneur, I'm a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm a better son, I'm a better person all around. So that's why, like for me, there's a big cost for just blindly going at it at all costs. I'm not against growth at all, but deliberate growth is what I want. Like you know what you're doing, because for me, like one of my characteristics, I guess, was from a test I got was I'm a maximizer. Apparently, one interpretation of that is like I want my calendar filled because I want to maximize all opportunities. And that's when I reflected that actually, like blank spaces in your calendar are appointments too. They are appointments for yourself to do nothing at all. That's an appointment, and that's something that I never saw before, and that's something that I really live by right now. And the way I manifest that in my students is two ways. One is focusing on simplicity, simple over fancy. So some of our modules, it's not fancy production. Like my presentation, my priority is not to make it pretty, but to make it easy to understand. So when I do a Zoom call, I have a presentation. It's not a fancy slide. It's just Google Doc. But I made sure that Google Doc has links to examples, has links to scripts, has links to screenshots that would make it easy for them. So that's one. And we also celebrate first wins more than like big lofty goals because I'm a big believer in momentum. So currently we're creating a project where I'm a NBA card collector. So I like collecting basketball cards. So what we'll be doing is creating a trading card for everyone who will get their first sale to commemorate that. Because remember, my first $8 really changed my life. And I want something physical for them to remember their first sale. Something they could put in their pocket, their bags, anywhere. And that's one way our philosophy is different. And the second way I inject this in my students' lives is by actually practicing it. I remember last time, like a few months back, like 4 months back, I was doing a product launch. And generally, when you have a product launch, you email every day, sometimes twice a day. But during that time, my wife got sick and I had to take care of her. she was having a bad cough. And I was also taking care of my daughter who was missing my wife. So I was pulling double duty. And because of that, I missed 2 days. I missed 2 emails, which is like almost a cardinal sin whenever you do a product launch. The good thing there is like I planned ahead early. So I had a wonderful pre-launch. So even the launch, even if I missed 2 days, it was still okay. But I'm sure I missed some opportunities there. I remember writing the last day email. I shared the stats of my launch so far, but I also told them like I missed 2 days. And here's why. So it was about my wife, it was my daughter. But at the end of the day, solopreneurship is not perfect, but it's beautiful because I was able to take care of my family, which is the point of the business. So I sleep tonight knowing proud that I was a husband and family man first and entrepreneur second. So having that narrative and living that, I think is one of the best ways I can communicate this to people who in my space, in my orbit.
That's awesome. You're definitely not alone in that journey. I can tell you that. I talked about, my passion for learning on the first episode, and that is definitely something that as I get busier, as my businesses grow, because I have more than one now. It's the one thing that kind of took a backseat to everything else that I got to do. And I was actually just talking about with my husband this week that I miss having time to learn. So actually, just this week or last week, I decided to I block half a day once a week. My Thursday mornings are my curiosity and learning day now. And that's going to be the time that I'm going to take to go watch that video that I really wanted to watch, but I didn't have time to, or go read through that email that I got from somebody that I really want to learn from, but I don't have the time to read that long email. But I know there's something interesting in there, and I know there might be maybe a training that I want to watch, maybe something that I want to research. And you just keep putting it off and off and off. So I've blocked my schedule for a learning slash curiosity half a day every week now. And I'm very excited about it. And that's something that came from the podcast. The podcast actually reminded me how fun and amazing it is to just take the time to learn because I have to interview my guests. It forces me to stop. I am not working when I'm with you guys. And I'm learning. I'm learning more about what you do. I'm learning about your stories, about your failures and successes. And it's exciting. And I am invigorated again and I'm excited again. So it was thanks to the podcast that kind of inspire me to go back to learning again, which is something I absolutely adore and I was missing. So definitely encourage you guys to block time off your schedule. It doesn't have to be a half a day. It doesn't have to be a day. It can be an hour or two a week. You can start small, but give yourself time and permission to learn as you grow so you don't forget that part of what made you excited about to start the business to begin with.
And for those listening on the podcast, should have seen Nata's face when she talked about learning again. Like she lit up like a kid in a candy store. I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you to find that time.
Yes, it's been fun. I'm excited for Thursdays now. So having grew up in a time before the internet, like we talked about before, transitioning to making a living online, which is amazing. How do you stay ahead of the game when it comes to the digital space, given that maybe you can say that we started in a disadvantage compared to everybody else since we kind of started behind? What advice do you give to others looking to adapt and thrive on the online environment?
I guess particularly since I'm in the marketing space, business space, since we do have that disadvantage, what I notice myself doing is first focusing on things that don't change. So like human psychology, speaking with people, being curious with people, because I think I believe that like adapting is more powerful than forecasting. I recently posted something about this where like I used to trade Forex before and we always wait for like economic reports to make our trades. And like economists are always mistaken. Like they're always off. It's almost like a guessing game. But like entrepreneurs, like during the pandemic, those entrepreneurs who produce masks instead of shirts, they made bank. Like they survived. So I think more than anything, adapt. Of course, it's nice to know like having an idea of where trends are going. I think the more valuable skill is being able to adapt because like things change so fast nowadays that if you don't have that mindset of keeping up or adapting or not being too tight in your ways, it's going to be hard for you to keep up, even if knowledge wise, it's coming. So I guess knowledge in terms of practical things. I try to subscribe to the newsletters of like the softwares that I use. So CRM, because of course, when there's big changes, they'll filter down to their users. Of course, getting into like forums, and if possible, like if you have fellow peers, entrepreneurs, get in that circle so that you can get wind of any updates, rumors that's happening. And what I like to do as well is to explore outside of my own space. Like in the business marketing space, I like to peer into health space. What's happening there? Because sometimes it doesn't have to be a change in the general, I guess, environment. Just adapting something that's happening in another space. That's also already innovation. It's almost like a cheat code. Like if you apply something from a different space, from finance, from health, it feels like you're doing something new, but it's already existing in that space. You can even be the one to implement that change and not wait for change to happen to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to look outside of your industry, which a lot of times we forget to do. Because there are things being done different ways that can get you to the same outcome in your industry. Just because that industry works a little different doesn't mean you cannot adapt that to what you do. So, looking outside of your industry for inspiration, for changes, techniques, strategies, very, very important. I think we get too much into our own arena, into our own area, and forget to look outside sometimes. So that's a great reminder for sure. So you talk a little bit about falling in love with emails and affiliate marketing. Let's talk about some of the strategies that resonated with you. How do you incorporate them into your teaching today?
Think what I liked about it is simplicity. That's kind of the theme revolving around that. What I do is emails is also one of the things that rarely change with algorithm. Like it changes like it's like accountancy as well. Accountancy doesn't change a lot. Very few, very slow. Same with emails. That's why I got attracted to it because I what I learn now will last a long time. Unlike when if I started with ads like Facebook ads, Google ads, like things change so rapidly that what I learn now doesn't matter in a few weeks. So that appealed to me. Now with affiliate marketing, what appealed to me there is it helps me sharpen my sales techniques because obviously the product is already selling. People are selling it. The product owner is selling it. Other affiliates are selling it. So if I can sell it, I know what I need to improve, which is my copywriting, my persuasion, the way I communicate. The problem, because when you're starting your own offer, there's so many variables. It's the offer, right? It's the copyright, it's the sales page. Right? There's too many variables. So I like affiliate marketing because you have only one variable to test. The offer is already good. So, and I didn't realize that when I started. It's just my focus was this is the easiest path to money because I don't have to create a product. I don't have to deliver the product and I don't have to deal with customer support. Back then, that was the main benefit for me, which is still true today. But afterward, when I'm training more people, that's one framework that I teach them. Like it helps you focus on one aspect of selling. So yeah, I guess what my biggest takeaway there and how I apply it now is really just simplicity, using one variable at a time and accepting, not taking no personally. Because when people show their sales, typically like if you're lucky, like just that's 5%. You got 95% knows, right? So that's also something that I share my students, like to get comfortable with these numbers because that's the reality. In the NBA, Steph Curry is like the best shooter in the world. He makes 47 or so percent of his shots, means that 53% of his shots are missed. So kind of it's something that we need to get comfortable with. And a lot of it is about also mind setting because speaking with them, getting through conversation, you can see that a lot of techniques can be easily copied. But the fortitude to go through the challenge, that's where people kind of fall off. And sometimes they just keep silent about it rather than talking about it. So I like to have implementation calls from my lessons. And people don't usually ask questions. What I do is I check in on them. And that's kind of naturally where their challenges come out. And that's where the real progress can happen.
And nobody loves to shout out their failures, right? They're not doing well. So but you have to ask for help. That's very important. So you said it yourself that your success kind of came as an accident. For those feeling kind of uncertain about their path, what advice do you have about just kind of embracing the unpredictability and finding your niche?
Yeah, I think it's really a lot about I'll call back to what I said earlier about motion. I think that's a lot of people overthink things. And that's what I realize when I look at the points of my life where I was unsure, the way I broke out of it is by moving rather than like figuring out the right answer, then making the right path. It's always moving a few inches here, course correct, a few inches here, course correct. And I think that comes from being comfortable with setbacks. So understanding that it's I like this quote from Queer Eye from Karamo, one of the stars of the show, where he says that failure is not the opposite of success; it's part of it. And I couldn't forget that line. I sometimes include that in my emails because that's really true. That's really true, and there's really no secret to getting that success. It's really just forward motion, and backwards. Taking a step back, it's still forward motion. Like I would tell my students, like when they validate their offer, you will get no's, right? But at the end of the day, you're still moving forward because you know one more thing that made people say no to. You can improve your offer, or it's a sign that you can pivot. So I don't want them to sit on an idea feeling that's going to make them $1 million just to find out that nobody likes it. So I want you to find out early. So a lot of it is getting comfortable with mistakes and also having like a good support system if possible. That would always be helpful. So so yeah, I think that's motion is like a big part of it because that's where clarity comes in.
So you came from a developing country. You really see knowledge as something that equalizes, right? For people in general. Can you share maybe a story or an example of how the right knowledge at the right time had changed someone's life, like maybe one of your clients?
Just recently, I have one student. I just gave use his initial B. So B had like he had a banner year last year, making like $16,000 a month for his agency. Then at the start of the year, he lost all of them for some one reason or another. Like they canceled their contracts with him, and he reached out because like he didn't know what to do. And even when he was making money, he guess there's part of him where he wasn't fulfilled. So there's this one email that I sent out to my newsletter, and I'm a big believer that, especially with service providers and experts that I work with, a lot of them don't really need to create products. What because in their hard drive or in their Dropbox or Google Drive, they have in fulfilling their work, their scripts, their templates, their coaching calls, people will pay for those. It's just a matter of they don't see it. So I sent an email a couple of weeks back where I listed out 18 possible products that they have in their hard drive. And this guy, eventually my student, he was handwriting my email as practice. And while handwriting, he was absorbing what I was saying. And he took a look at his hard drive and packaged his content, offered it on social media. And he offered it for $20, made 2 grand out of it. And that was a lot of it is timing, kind of understanding what you have, right? Because a lot of people do a lot of amazing stuff. It's stored in their hard drive. Anyone listening here, when you might want to look at your hard drive, there's probably chances are there's product there, you have assets there people are willing to pay for. So talking about the right timing there, and he was really happy because eventually he told me that he can join my program for free because he got the money from that free advice. That's what lights me up. Like people getting paid for what they're worth and being able to find fulfillment because their knowledge, because the thing that he was selling can give that customer the knowledge that that person needs to get a client. Getting a client could lead to multiple clients, that could lead to higher income, that could turn their families' lives around. Because here, especially in developing country, supporting your family is a big deal. Right? It's not just your own income, but supporting your family, your parents. So that could change people's lives. And that's what I want, to empower them to be able to impact others. And for us, like a lot, the reason like we're talking now, like thousands of miles away from each other, is because we connected in some way on an intellectual level. And that that's something that I can't do physically. That's something that distance won't bar us from connecting, but through knowledge. And that's what I mean by like it's the ultimate equalizer. It's not perfect. There's still inequality in the world, but that allows us like opportunities that otherwise might not be available to us.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just so you guys know, too, when Alan applied to be a guest on the podcast, he didn't just fill out the application like everybody else does. He sent me a video. He made a video for me. He showed me what time it was. It was 2 or 3 in the morning. And he told me, I am here. I'm excited. I'm sending this video really late at night because I wanted to connect and I have a message to share with your audience. And it was so refreshing to see somebody thinking outside of the box and somebody being excited about sharing the opportunities and the things that he did for himself to grow his business with you guys. So we should be very lucky and honored that you are listening to this episode today and gaining all this awesome advice and strategies from him. So, Alan, tell everybody where they can find you if they need your services, they want to work with you.
Sure. You can join my newsletter at digitalsolopreneur.com/newsletter. I'm also on LinkedIn under my name, Alan Ngo. Also on Facebook under the same name. So I'd be happy to connect with you. Let me know that you connected to me through Nata, and like I'll treat you as family.
Perfect. Yes, we will link all of that for you guys as well. Alan, thank you so much for spending the time sharing your story and really getting everybody encouraged and excited about their solopreneur journey.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope this was able to help you guys out.
I'm sure it was. Everybody, I'll see you next week in another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nata Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.